بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Before I start, I would like just to say to you, first of all, I came on time with something that held me from to come at 8 o'clock. I came to 2 or 3 minutes before 8. The other issue is that we will postpone the reminder when the people come after the Maghrib prayer. So the Maghrib prayer shall we make a reminder that we usually got used to make a reminder. So to target as many people as possible. So straight away we go to our book, Sifat al-Salah, and the thing that we have been talking about was the Qiyam. So we're going to fall from the Qiyam. Right. Right. Now, read.
Today's 7th lesson, 23rd of Sha'ban, 1437, 30th May 2016, page 3. Standing in prayer. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to stand in prayer for both obligatory and voluntary prayers, carrying out the command of the exalted. وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. Translated the meaning, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 238, and stand before Allah devoutly.
Right. Do you have a footnote for the tatawwur, which is the voluntary number 1? You have a footnote?
No, it's coming on that side.
You don't have a footnote. Okay, let's just Bismillah. Walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. Now I'm quoting to you now more from the Asl, from the Shaykh Rahimahullah. So the Qiyam, he says, the Prophet of Allah used to stay up in the Qiyam, in the Fard, which is the obligatory, and the Tatawwur, which is the voluntary. And the Shaykh Rahimahullah says, as for his Qiyam in the Fard, for verily we have seen some ahadiths before mentioning the issue. As for his Qiyam in the Tatawwur, which is the voluntary, we have hadith Hafsa, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when she said, I have seen the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I have never seen him praying his voluntary sitting down until it was just a year before he died. And he used to pray his voluntary sitting down, and he used to recite the surah and make tartil to it until it will become longer than the longest. And this hadith is to be authentic. And the Shaykh Rahimahullah talks about the verse which is وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, and stand up to Allah in qunut. Qunut means khushu', humbled, tranquility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this would entail that you abandon all types of talks in the salah, because the talk in the salah go against the khushu'. And that is why when the Prophet ﷺ refused to answer the salutation of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud when he said salam to him while he was in the salah, after the prayer he said, Inna fi salati la shughla. Verily, the man is in the salah, he is being preoccupied, so he cannot return the salutation. And also in the ayah, there is a proof, that is, the qiyam is to be fard, because the ayah says, قُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. So the qiyam is to be fard upon the person who is capable of doing so. And also the ayah which comes afterward, which is the ayah that we'll be discussing later on as well, when Allah said, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ فَرِجَالًا أَوْ رُكْبَانًا. And if you were scared, then that is in the war, then you could pray while you are walking or you are riding. And the scholars have ijma', consensus, that is upon this, whether he is an imam or whether he is being ma'moom, meaning behind the imam. And they have differed regarding the ma'moom who is capable, that is to pray sitting down after or behind an imam who is ill, who is not able to stand up. So they differ, the scholars, regarding ma'moom, who is capable of standing up to pray behind an imam who is ill, who cannot stand up in the prayer. Al-Qurtubi, rahimahullah, says in his tafsir, for verily some of the groups of scholars, actually most of them, they have said it is permissible. That is for the person who is ma'moom, and he is a person who is healthy, he could stand up to pray behind an imam who is ill, who cannot stand up. For verily the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, he said regarding this imam, if he prays sitting down, then pray sitting down altogether. And this is the correct issue regarding this matter. This is what Al-Qurtubi had said. And of course the Shaykh rahimahullah, he says this will be talked about later on. As for the standing up in the nawafil, the Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, qiyam, which is in the supererogatory or voluntary, for verily an-Nawawi in Sharh Imam Muslim, he says there is consensus among the scholars that is permissible to do so, that is to abandon standing up in the qiyam even though you are capable of standing up. And that is the proof for that, for the Prophet ﷺ is to pray his night prayer sitting down. And also the Prophet of Allah's prayer upon his mount, and he was sitting down, and it was not the faridah, but it was actually the voluntary. Here the Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he says there is a benefit that we could reap from, or we could take from Abu Bakr al-Jassas in his great book Ahkam al-Quran, when he said in this ayah, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. He says this ayah includes the obligation of standing up in the prayer, because the qunut is a name that takes underneath it the ta'ah, which is the obedience. And that is, it means that all the actions of the prayer is to be obedience, and from the obeying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we should not be in the prayer except for obedience. And the qunut is the consisting, the running of something all the time. So qunut means you are going consistently in the ta'ah. So this means it is prohibited to speak while you are in the prayer. It's prohibited to sleep or sit down in the prayer. Prohibited to eat or drink while you are in the prayer. And every action which is not obedience, for verily the entailing of this word, قُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, that you have to be consistent upon the ta'ah. And also there is a prohibition from breaking off the prayer and preoccupying yourself by other than the prayer. Why? Because this qunut means you are consistent, and if you do other than the obedience in the prayer, then you will not be consistent, and it will be against the tranquility. So the word al-qunut that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which he mentioned, even it is short, very few words. So this verse, قُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, it's a short verse, yet it underneath it is a lot of meaning. It actually summons all the actions of the prayer, whether it's obligatory or it's voluntary. And also it entails the prohibition of doing any action which does not include an obedience. And this is Abu Bakr al-Jassas rahimahullah in Ahkam al-Quran, as I said. Then Shaykh al-Albani goes on in that chapter. He says that is وَأَمَّا فِي السَّفَرِ. Go on.
And as for during a journey, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would pray voluntary prayers on his riding beast. He set the example for his ummah to pray during severe fear on foot.
Blowing into it. That's gone.
He sallallahu alaihi wasallam set the example for his ummah to pray during severe fear on foot or while mounted, as he mentioned.
Maybe you want to put it this way, sideways. Yeah, go on.
Mentioned, and that is the purpose of the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى وقوموا لله قانتين.
Guard strictly your habit of prayers, especially the middle prayer, and stand before Allah devoutly.
فإن خفتم فرجالا أو ركبانا.
If you fear an enemy, then pray on foot or while riding.
فإذا أمنتم فاذكروا الله كما علمكم ما لم تكونوا تعلمون.
But when you are in security, celebrate Allah's praises in the manner He has taught you, which you did not know before.
Do you have a footnote for the Salat al-Wusta? No? No. Okay, let me just read. Salat al-Wusta, that is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, observe your prayers, and especially the Wusta. Wusta in Arabic, the middle. And also it means the best. Al-Wasat means the middle and means as well the best. So I'm asking you, so you could really prepare before if I ask you something, you refer quickly, inshallah. Now.
The middle prayer, that is the Asr prayer according to the correct saying of the majority of the scholars, among them Abu Hanifa and his two students. There are a hadith about this which Ibn Kathir has given in his tafsir in the Quran.
Right, so let's go to this hadith. We have the Prophet ﷺ, he said in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, he's been documented, about the Jews of Banu Qurayza. When the Prophet of Allah ﷺ had to go after the Battle of the Trench, he had to go as well to follow up these people who made treachery. And he said to the companions, لا يصلين أحدكم العصر إلا في بني قريظة. None of you to pray the Asr except in Banu Qurayza. So the companions went straight away. The sunset had appeared. Some of the companions, they said, we should pray because the sunset has appeared and we're getting close to it. Some said, no, the Prophet of Allah said, we should not pray until we are there. So we are not there. So some companions prayed the prayer before sunset, the Asr, and some of them had prayed it after sunset. And both are correct, but which is more correct? The one who done it before. And the Prophet of Allah, when he said, don't pray Asr until you are in Banu Qurayza, he meant, that means it's as long as it is before sunset. But the other ones, they took the wording of the Prophet of Allah, we cannot pray the Asr until we are in Banu Qurayza, so they had to sacrifice the sunset. And they've seen the sunset, but they thought they are doing what the Prophet of Allah had told them to do. And the Prophet ﷺ himself, he did not pray the Asr until after sunset. And he was, because of what happened in Banu Qurayza, they were giving us the scare. So he said, شَغَلُونَ عَنِ الصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى. They have preoccupied us from the Salat al-Wusta. And then he said Salat al-Asr. So the Prophet of Allah bluntly, explicitly, he said it is Salat al-Asr. مَلَأَ اللَّهُ قُبُورَهُمْ وَبُيُوتَهُمْ نَارٍ. May Allah fill up their graves and their houses in fire. Right, this is, as I said, Ibn Kathir had also in his tafsir, he had discussed this hadith. As for Imam Muhammad Abdu, Imam al-Shaykh al-Albani, he says, that Imam Muhammad Abdu, he says in his tafsir, other issues in which he said that Salat al-Wusta means al-Fudla, the best. That means observe all the prayers, and also the best of the prayer, that is the one that you have your heart with it. This saying of his is not right, because Imam al-Albani says, rahimahullah, the hadith is explicitly saying Salat al-Wusta, it is Salat al-Asr. And I'll tell you, brothers, that the Salat al-Wusta, we have more than 10 sayings, about 12 sayings on the scholars, which is this Salah. Some of them they say it is Fajr, some of them they say the Dhuhr, some of them they say Fajr and Dhuhr, some of them say Asr, Asr and Maghrib, Maghrib and Isha. Lots of difference among the scholars regarding which is the Salat al-Wusta. And the hadith there, as I said, it is authentic, and it says Salat al-Wusta, this is Salat al-Asr, from the wording of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sallam. You'll find that some of the scholars who did not take that wording, Salat al-Asr, is to be the wording of the Prophet of Allah, they thought it is mudraj, meaning it's one of the companions who said it, it's not the Prophet of Allah. And that is why they said that this is not the saying of the Prophet of Allah, and that's why they ended up differing which is a Salat al-Wusta. But actually, it is correct. It is from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sallam. Now, here in the ayah, it says, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ, if you are scared, then pray رِجَالًا أَوْ رُكْبَانًا, whether you are on foot or on your mount. Al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, he said, رِجَال means that the person, he is on his foot. And regarding this, he says, Abu Hanifa said that the fighting does not corrupt the prayer, does not invalidate the prayer. And Abdullah ibn Umar, he says that this hadith refutes such an argument, and the ayah is more powerful than what Abdullah ibn Umar had said. Imam al-Shafi'i, he says, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he had made it permissible for us to leave some of the arkan in the salah, tells us that fighting in the salah does not invalidate it. That's what Imam al-Shafi'i had said. And now the Prophet ﷺ وصلى Rasulullah in his illness.
He ﷺ prayed sitting during the illness of which he died.
Also, he prayed what?
On another occasion, before that, when he was injured and the people behind him prayed standing, so he indicated...
I don't want the hadith, but just say it, just that hadith. So the Prophet ﷺ, he had prayed in his illness, which he died through it in the last days. He prayed sitting down. And that is, as well, we're going to discuss it in details. So, inshallah, we're going to discuss how did the Prophet ﷺ prayed in the last illness of his sitting down. Then he says, Shk.Abu, and also he prayed again.
When he finished, he said...
Just repeat again after the hadith.
He also prayed sitting on another occasion before that, when he was injured and the people behind him prayed standing.
Yes.
So he indicated to them to sit. So
indicated that means like this, a gesture. Sit down like this.
So they sat and prayed. When he ﷺ finished, he said, "You are going to do as the Persians and the Romans do. Stand for their kings who sit. So do not do so, for the Imam is there to be followed. When he makes ruku', make ruku'. When he rises, rise. And when he prays sitting, pray sitting, all of you."
Right. So let's just talk about those days. We have number of hadiths. Number one, hadith Aisha radiallahu anha. She said that the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed behind Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and he was sitting in the illness which he died in it. So it says this hadith, Prophet of Allah prayed behind Abu Bakr and he was sitting in the illness, during the illness which he died through it. So that's the hadith from the Aisha radiallahu anha wa ardah. Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu wa ardah, he said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed in the illness, in his illness. He did not say the illness of his death. That is behind Abu Bakr, and he was sitting in a thawb and he was covering himself with it. Al-Tahawi had added as well, so it was the last prayer that he prayed. And the Shaykh rahimahullah, he says that the hadith is sahih. And also we have another narration for this hadith, that the Prophet ﷺ, he used to pray with the people and lead the people, and he was sitting, and Abu Bakr was standing up. He was, that is, the Prophet ﷺ, making iqtida'. I mean, he is the ma'moom, and Abu Bakr is the imam in the salah of the Prophet of Allah, and the people were making iqtida' with Abu Bakr. So again, the Prophet ﷺ, he was praying and he was sitting, and Abu Bakr, he was standing up. Sorry, I was made a mistake here. Abu Bakr was standing up, and Abu Bakr was making iqtida' with the Prophet of Allah. So the Prophet of Allah is the Imam, but Abu Bakr is standing up. And the people were making iqtida' with the prayer of Abu Bakr. So the Prophet of Allah is sitting, and Abu Bakr is standing. And Abu Bakr taking the Prophet of Allah as an Imam. That is in the narration. And the people taking Abu Bakr as their Imam. So they are standing up. So in this narration, the Shaykh al-Albani, he says, that the Prophet ﷺ, he was an Imam. Whereas in the other narration, we find that the Prophet ﷺ, he was not the Imam, he was the Ma'moom. And the scholars had differed regarding how to reconcile between such narrations. That the Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, in his book Al-Fath, he discussed it. And he brought all the reasonings between those narrations, and the last thing that he arrived to, which is the best thing, that the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed 2 prayers in that masjid. That is, one prayer he was ma'moom, and the other prayer he was an imam. And this is what Ibn Hazm rahimahullah had taken as to be the correct opinion, and this is the opinion of our Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, as we're going to discuss as well further. Now, Aisha radiallahu anha, in more detail, she said, when the Prophet of Allah, he was complaining in some of his prayers, that the people entered upon him from his companions, they wanted to visit the Prophet of Allah. So the Prophet of Allah led them in the prayer. So they prayed while they're standing up. Because he was sitting down, he indicated and gave them a gesture to sit down. So they sat down, and this is the same story which came from as well from Anas radiallahu anhu wa arda. Anas, he says that the Prophet of Allah, he fell from his horse, and that is why he was injured. So we entered upon him, and the salah came. So he had prayed while he was sitting, and we prayed behind him sitting. So when he finished the prayer, he said, verily the imam is being made to be followed. If he makes ruku', make ruku'. If he says Sami Allah liman hamidah, qul rabbana wa lakal hamd. And if he stands up, he stand up. If he prays sitting down, then pray sitting down all together. Also from the hadith of Jabir, I'm bringing you all the narrations and to come to the conclusion that the Prophet of Allah, he had also injured, and we prayed behind him, and he was sitting. And Abu Bakr, he was making the takbir audible to the people. So, and then he looked at us, and he saw us standing up. So he sat, he made an indication, that is, to pray sitting down. And we prayed sitting down. When he finished the prayer, he said, "Buddy, you're almost done what the Faris and Rome, the Persians and the Romans used to do. That is, they stand up on their kings, and their kings are sitting down. Don't do that, and follow your imam. If you pray standing up, you pray standing up. If you pray sitting down, then pray sitting down." Also, and Jabir radiallahu anhu, the Prophet of Allah, he fell from his horse, and his foot was twisted. So it's exactly the same hadith as we have mentioned before, that he prayed sitting down, and the companions prayed sitting down behind him. Now, this is the hadith that we could find here, a conflict in between them. And we want to make sure that we understand how the Prophet of Allah would be an imam, yet Abu Bakr standing up and the people standing up. Well, that's why we'll be discussing this. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah discussed also in his book Al-Irwa, and he discussed this as well in his book, which is Sifat Salat al-Nabi. He says that know for a fact that in these ahadith there is an indication and a proof that the imam, if he prays sitting down because of his illness that he has got, then the ones behind him, they will pray sitting down, even though they are capable of standing up. And the proof that the Prophet ﷺ, he said that following the imam while he's sitting down is from the obedience of the imam, which is compulsory by the book of Allah. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith, he who obeys me had obeyed Allah, and he who disobeys me had disobeyed Allah. And he who obeys my amir, then he obeyed me, and he who disobeys my amir had disobeyed me. For verily the imam is a shield. So he prays sitting down, pray sitting down. If you say Sami Allahu liman hamida, say Rabbana wa lakal hamd. So if your tasmiya, that is Rabbana wa lakal hamd, coincides, the angels who are in the heavens, all your previous sins will be forgiven. Also, we have a hadith from Abdullah ibn Umar, that he was one day from the days with the Prophet ﷺ, and there were some companions. So he said to them, that is, don't you know that I am your prophet being sent to you? They said, yes, Messenger of Allah. We testify that you are the Prophet of Allah. Don't you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent in his book that he who obeys me had obeyed Allah? He said, yes, we testify, O Messenger of Allah, that he who obeys you had obeyed Allah. Then he said, for verily, from the obedience of Allah is to obey me, and from obeying me is to obey my imam. That is your imam, the one who leads you. So if they pray sitting down, then pray sitting down altogether. And this hadith is authentic as well. So this is all of it as well to show us that if your Imam is your Imam, you cannot make a revulsion, you cannot revolt against him. And Imam al-Zay'ali in his Nasb al-Rayah, and he says a good word. He says, verily in this ahadith we could see that the Imam, if he prays sitting down, then the people had to pray sitting down. And this is what the Sahaba had made fatwa. Jabir ibn Abdullah, Abu Hurairah, Usayd ibn Hudayr, Qais ibn Fahd, and lots of other companions. And there is no narration from the companions which differs from this, which is authentic. So this is consensus, and the consensus is the consensus of the Sahaba. And also, this is what the fatwa of the ones who follow the Sahaba, from the Tabi'een, the followers, Jabir ibn Zayd, and there was no from the Tabi'een other than that which is authentic. So it is also an ijma' and a consensus from the Tabi'een, from the followers. And the first one who had differed from this is Al-Mughira ibn Muqsim. And Hammad ibn Abi Sulaiman, he took from him. And then Hammad, he had taken from him Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, and then the followers of Abu Hanifa. Those are the ones who had gone against this consensus, which they said that a person who is healthy can stand up, could never pray behind somebody who's what? Sitting down. That they don't allow it. And that, as I said, the first person who had gone against this ijma' is Al-Mughira ibn Muqsim. And from Mughira, Hammad took. And Abu Hanifa took it from Hammad, rahimahullah. And they have the hadith, the following hadith, which they have attributed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which says, لا يؤمن أحد بعدي جالسا. No one to make an imam while he's sitting down. It cannot be an imam if he's sitting down. And this hadith is unauthentic. The Shaykh deals with it, rahimahullah, to say, I'm just saying to you, what is the Ahnaf? Why do they say it is not allowed for the person who is healthy standing up, cannot pray behind what? Somebody who's sitting down. So this is why the Shaykh is bringing their proof. He said, this is the best of the proof, and that hadith is unauthentic, which is, لا يؤمن أحد بعدي جالسا. And that is, no one to lead the prayer after me, after the Prophet of Allah, while he's sitting down. So the shuyukh, they said, this is actually opposed to the Sharia. And what is amazing and more amazing, that Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, he says about Jabir al-Ju'fi, he's a liar. And that is not right. And also the Shaykh rahmatullahi alayhi, he had brought other ahadith to tell us that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said with his words, إِذَا صَلَّى الْإِمَامُ جَالِسًا فَصَلُّوا جُلُوسًا. And also from their proofs, the Ahnaf, they said this is only for one companion and it is only to be used as for that person. But actually it is not. For the very when the Prophet of Allah talks to one person, it's like talking to the whole of the Ummah. Right, now we want to combine between the two hadith that we talked about, Abu Bakr standing up and sitting down. We say that if the Imam, the one who's leading the prayer, is sitting down for any disease that he's got, then the people behind him pray sitting down. Secondly, if the Imam was standing up, then the people behind him has to stand up. Now, whether this Imam later on sits down or doesn't, the people stand up. Do you understand what I'm saying? Again, the Imam was sitting down and everybody were praying sitting down. The Imam praying standing up from the beginning, and then somehow while he was in the first rak'ah, something had happened to him and he sat down, the people will stay what? Standing up. And this is how to combine between the hadith. As in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he prayed in his illness during his death, that is the illness that took him to the death, for verily that when he was praying and he was praying sitting down, and they were praying behind the Prophet of Allah sitting down. But once they were praying standing up, because the Prophet of Allah came standing up, then he sat down. So he, the Prophet of Allah, did not object. Okay? The Prophet did not object on them to stand up while he's sitting down, because he was already standing up at the beginning. So, says Abu Bakr, he had started the prayer. He started the prayer what? Standing up. So they prayed with him standing up. Whereas that case, the Prophet of Allah, he is the one who started the prayer, so they prayed in what? Sitting down. So again, first one, the Prophet ﷺ started the prayer what? Sitting down. So everybody, when they stood up, he told them what? Sit down. But the second one, Abu Bakr started the prayer. He's the Imam. When he was the Imam, he started what? Standing up. The Prophet of Allah came and he sat down, and Abu Bakr started now to follow the Prophet. So the Prophet, even is sitting down, the Imam, the second, but the people started already what? Standing up. They don't have to sit down if the Imam something happened to it. Is that understood now to you? That's how we reconcile between all the narrations. After we have finished, alhamdulillah, this is what we have just said. So you could really put that into your notes. And now we go to Salat al-Marid, prayer of the ill.
The prayer of a sick person in a sitting position. Imran bin Hussein radiallahu anhu said, I was suffering from hemorrhoids, piles. So I asked the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he said, pray standing. If you are not able, then sitting down. And if you are not able to do so, then pray lying down.
Right. He said, I got bawasir. Bawasir in Arabic, piles. And they're very painful. He said, I had piles. And I've asked the Prophet of Allah about this. What should I do? Because some of the piles, people can't even sit, they can't stand, they can't do anything. They have to go walking sometimes. The piles are very painful. So he said to the Prophet of Allah, what should I do? So the Prophet of Allah said, pray standing up. If you can't, then sitting down. If you can't, then on the side. What is on the side? That means like this, and you face towards what? The Qibla, on the side. It means on your side, not on your back. فَعَلَى جَنْبٍ. Right, this hadith is also being narrated with an addition to it. And this addition is very important because it says that if you can't, then you could do another one, which is what? مُضَّجِعًا, on your back. This is the narration which is authentic, and that is فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ فَمُسْتَلْقِيًا, on your back. Meaning, your feet is towards the Qibla, and your head is back. So you will be, if you are now, this is the Qibla. So, we will put the head of the person there, and his feet towards what? The Qibla. This is the way to do it. Right. Okay, so here we find that the person from this hadith is not allowed, if he's not capable, from standing up, to go from standing up to what? No, to what? On the side. He has to start with what? Sitting. So he cannot jump to the side until he what? Cannot stand, sit down. Now, he cannot as well, if he cannot sit down, he's not allowed to go on his back unless he's not capable of on his side. Do you understand that? So the first thing, standing up. You can't jump to the side. You have to what? Sit. If you can't sit, you can't jump to the what? Sitting at the back. You have to go on the side. So this is a capability. Okay? This is mentioned, of course, in the what? Faridah wa nafila. Which one? The obligatory or the voluntary? Obligatory was the voluntary. You're allowed to sit down even if you are capable of standing up. Are you allowed to pray voluntary on the side? There's a difference among the scholars because I don't think any of you have prayed voluntary on the side. Can anybody tell me you prayed on the side? Nobody prayed on the side? It's allowed to pray voluntary on the side. That's why it's really strange for you. You pray voluntary sitting down, no problem with that. Okay, so you're allowed, and you'll have half, as we're going to see that, half of the one who's sitting. You're allowed to pray voluntary on what? Mustalqi, on your back. It will be half of the half of the half. So you got what? 1/8 of the reward of standing up. So the Prophet ﷺ is talking about this person who is in the obligatory cannot stand up. Imran, he can't be. Why? Because he's got bawasir. Bawasir, as I said, pile. So he said to the Prophet ﷺ, Messenger of Allah, I cannot pray. So he says, okay, pray standing up if you can. If you can't, stand, sit down. If you can't, then on the side. If you can't, then on the back. And this is the ziyada which I brought is authentic. He says, Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar rahimahullah, some of the scholars had taken it as a proof that the ill person does not go to sitting down except if he is incapable of standing up. And this is the Shafi'i sayings as well, and also from Malik and Ahmad. And the son of Ahmad, he asked, my father was asked about the ill, when does he pray sitting down? He said, if his standing up is weakening him, makes him weaker, then he would say to him, then it is better for me or more recommended for me to pray, for him to pray sitting down. But also as well, Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, he does not make a condition that you're not able. But as long as you find mashaqqa, which is tiredness to stand up. So when Shafi'iyya says that, they say that what is being meant or intended by this, or what is meant by this hadith, that is wujud al-mashaqqa, tiredness. It doesn't mean you are incapable completely. That means if you stand up, you might increase your pain, you might increase your illness, then you're allowed to what? To sit. It doesn't mean that you cannot sit whatsoever. Sorry, you cannot stand whatsoever. So if you cannot stand whatsoever, you're allowed. But I'm just saying, what about if a person, he finds it what? Difficult. Or he is afraid that it will, put him in more danger. The doctor said to me, if you stand up, for example, it's going to affect your spine. For example, I'm just saying. So, but it cannot be any tiredness. You've been working hard. You can stand up, but just a bit of, you have to stand up. But this person, he finds difficulty, and he's scared that difficulty will increase to more serious thing. That is the one is able to sit down if he can't stand up. And the same thing, he's able to, when he's side, if he cannot do the sitting down, same thing. So, for example, if the person is in the ship, and if he stands up, and the ship I'm talking about, those ships at that time, which is a small one, like a boat, if he stands up, he's going to get a headache. Some people get seasickness. So if it is the case, he could what? Sit down, even though it's an obligatory prayer. Or, for example, he's scared they're going to be what? Drowning. He would pray sitting down. So this is what the correct opinion from the Imam Shafi'i, which is the correct opinion that we adopt as well. Abdullah ibn Abbas, he says that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the ill person prays standing up. If he's got difficulty, prays sitting down. If he's got difficulty, then he would pray on his side. If he's got difficulty, then he would pray sleeping, and he would make his head. Okay, the nod. So if he, and then if he is even difficulty for that, then you just make tasbih, sabbah. Right, this hadith, the Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he says that it is not sahih. And Imam al-Tirmidhi, he says, and the people of knowledge and the scholars, they have differed regarding the prayer of the sick person, if he was not capable of praying sitting down. Some of the scholars, they said, they pray on his side. Some of them, they said, no, he prays on his back. But actually the hadith support that first on his side, then on his back. You don't go to the back unless you're not capable of what? Praying on the side. And this is hadith Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the person, that is the ill person, prays standing up. If he can. If he can't, sitting. If he can't make prostration, then he would make a gesture. And he would make prostration is lower than his ruku', his bowing. If he can't pray sitting down, then he prays on his side, and he would be facing the Qibla with his face. And if he can't pray, that is, he would pray on his side. He can't pray on his side, he would pray on his back, and his feet is the one which is closer to the Qibla. So this is the hadith, which as well the Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he says that is unauthentic. He says it is not authentic, but the hadith is still hadith Imran. For verily, it says there clearly the hadith that you pray on the side. If you can't pray, then you pray on the back, which is, as I said, even though it's unauthentic, but the meaning of it is sound. Now, coming to what the Shaykh as well, the Shaykh, read.
Imran ibn Hussein also said, I asked him sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the prayer of a man while sitting. So he said, he who prays standing, that is better. He who prays sitting, his reward is half that of the former. He who prays lying down, and in another narration reclining, has half the reward of the one who sits.
Do you have a footnote for that before I read?
Ibn Khattabi said, the meaning of Imran radiallahu anhu's hadith is intended for a sick person who is able to undergo hardship and stand with difficulty. Hence the reward of praying sitting has been made half of the reward of praying standing, encouraging him to pray standing while allowing him to sit. Ibn Hajar said in Fathul Bari, volume 2, page 468, this deduction is valid.
Again, the deduction, please.
Khattabi said...
Well, you said Ibn al-Khattabi before, so I don't know why you said Ibn al-Khattabi.
It says Ibid. Ibid is the book.
There's nothing. Al-Khattabi. You said Ibn, I thought you said Ibn al-Khattabi. Imam al-Khattabi, go on.
Khattabi said, the meaning of Imran's hadith is intended for a sick person who is able to undergo hardship and stand with difficulty. Hence the reward of praying sitting has been made half of the reward of praying standing, encouraging him to pray standing while allowing him to sit. Ibn Hajar said in Fath al-Bari, this
Let me
reduction is
explain
valid.
what he said, because maybe it's not really clear. Is it clear? Is it clear for you?
No, it contradicts what you said.
Yeah.
What is it clear? No, it's not he decides. It's difficulty. It's not he decides. It's got difficulty. Right. Encourage him to stand up. I'm asking the question, what did you understand from this? A person who's got so much difficulty to stand up. No, not the question. Is his reward when he sits down half while he's standing up or not? Do you understand the question now? This is what he's talking about now. Is it half or not half?
No half.
Read that again. Al-Khattab.
Khattabi said, the meaning of Imran's hadith...
Which is Imran hadith says that when the Prophet ﷺ was asked about the man sitting down in his prayer, he said, he who prays standing up, then it's better. And he who prays sitting down, then he's got half of the reward who's standing up. And he who prays on his back, in another narration on his side, then he's got that reward, half of the reward is the one who's sitting. Now, this is the hadith of Imran. Go on.
The meaning of Imran's hadith is intended for a sick person who is able to undergo hardship and stand with difficulty. Hence, the reward of praying sitting has been made half of the reward of praying standing.
So according to the Khattabi, what? He gets half or not? Half. When you say no, he gets a half. Right. So we want to understand this now. So it means as well that first of all, the person who is incapable whatsoever of praying standing up, he will have what? Full reward. Whether he prays sitting or on the side or on the back. Because لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah will not be from His justice to give him half, and yet he cannot, is not able. Alright? Al-Khattabi, he says that this hadith, okay, talks about not just the one who is in the voluntary prayer, talks about the person who is what? Praying, also the what? The obligatory prayer. But, you see that those people who has difficulty to stand up, yet are capable of standing up. So they prefer to sit down, then they will get what? Half of the reward. Because they are able to stand up, but they find it what? Difficult. Now this is the Khattabi's words. Now, how difficult it is. Now, this is argumentative as well. You could say, if it's so difficult that the person is able to stand up, but he fears that it's going to be what? Okay, a disaster later on is going to increase his symptoms. We would say in this case that the Imam al-Khattabi, he says that if he stood up, he will get full plus his effort to stand up. Do you understand that? But if it's going to be in the case of it's going to be painful to him, how is he going to be rewarded for that? When the Prophet ﷺ, he said in number of hadith, that is, لا ينبغي. It is not fit for the believer to harm himself. He cannot humiliate himself. He cannot put himself into pressure. And إِنَّ لِجِسْمِكَ عَلَيْكَ حَقًّا. Your body has a right upon you. So the mashaqqa that Imam al-Khattabi talks about, Wallahu a'lam, is the mashaqqa which is that if the person stood up, he will not fear that there will be an increase in symptoms. But it's difficult on him, and he's trying his best. But it's not going to be what? Disastrous if he doesn't. Because the doctor said to him, don't stand up, it will affect your spine. And if he stood up, do we say that he's going to be better? No, it's not going to be better. It will be worse. It's like the person we say, the person who's fasting. The doctor says to you that you are diabetes type 1. Which one worse, type 1 or type 2? Type 1, of course. Type 1 says to him, it's dangerous that you fast. This person, he said, I could fast, but with difficulty. Do we say to him, it's better for you to fast? No. It will be sinful for you to fast. Because the doctor said it's dangerous upon you. Same thing with the one that stands up. But if this person, he's got no diabetes, but if he stands up, he's going to feel what? Dizziness. So when he stands up, still difficult, but it's not going to be what? Carried on. It's not going to be something that will entail side effects. So this person, if he stood up, he will get, he will get the full reward. If he sat down, he will get what? Half. Because he could stand up, but it's a bit difficult. That's what Imam al-Khattabi refers to. Wallahu ta'ala, this is debatable as well. This is debatable as well. We can't really take it as well. We say, this hadith, yes, it is for the hadith who is praying voluntary, 100%, and also for the ones who prays obligatory. We cannot say that if you prayed standing up, it is better. No. You have to say it's must. You must pray standing up if you are capable in the obligatory prayer. You may not pray what? Sitting down. Let's just see what the Shaykh rahimahullah he says.
This applies to the sick person. For Anas radiallahu anhu said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam came out to the people while they were praying sitting due to illness. So he said, verily, the prayer of one who sits is worth half of the prayer of the one who stands.
So here the Prophet ﷺ, he came upon people. They were praying sitting down because of what? Illness. He said to them, the prayer of the one who sits is half of the one who prays sitting up. This is why Imam al-Khattabi, he said that even the one who's obligatory, then he's going to get the half. Now this as well, the hadith could be interpreted, the ones who have prayed sitting down, they were able to pray standing up, but with a bit of difficulty. But if they are praying sitting down and they completely can't stand up, how can their prayer be on the half of the prayer of the standing up, when the Prophet of Allah, he said to the person who fasts Monday and Thursday, yet he cannot fast them because of traveling or illness, even he doesn't fast them at all, Allah will say to his angels to write every single good deed that they used to do when they are healthy and resident. So that is the case, everything that they used to do. So it cannot be the case of that these people they were not capable of standing up. They were capable, but they were sitting down. Wallahu a'lam. But let me just now shed more light upon this. First of all, the Prophet ﷺ was praying sitting down himself. Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar, he says that this generality of this hadith is an exception for the Prophet of Allah. If he prayed it himself sitting down, his reward from the prayer will not be deducted. The reason behind this, Mullah ibn Amr, he said, I heard the Prophet ﷺ saying that the prayer of the person sitting down is upon half of the prayer when the person is standing up, half of the prayer. So I came and I found the Prophet of Allah praying sitting down. So I put my hand on top of my head and I said, and then he said to me, the Prophet of Allah, what's wrong? Oh Abdullah, what's wrong? Abdullah ibn Amr. So I told him, I said to him, Messenger of Allah, you said that the prayer of the person sitting down, half of the prayer standing up. So he said to him, oh yes, it is true, but I'm not like one of you. I'm not like one of you. So this is hadith, it's like a Muslim to tell us that the Prophet of Allah will have what? His full reward, whether it's praying standing up or praying sitting down. And this is what the Shafi'i said, this is from his khusus, khasa'is al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, specialty of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Right. Okay, now we come to the hadith of yes, go continue.
Once he sallallahu alaihi wasallam visited a sick person and saw him praying leaning on a pillow, so he took it and cast it aside. So the man took a stick to pray leaning on it, but he took it and cast it aside and said, Pray on the ground if you can, but otherwise make movements with your head, making your sujood lower than your ruku.
When it says here he took a stick and leaning on it, what does that mean? He's doing it with his hand or with his head? Okay. Now the Prophet ﷺ, he visited a person and he saw him praying what?
Leaning on a pillow.
Leaning on a pillow? Okay. So here it says here that the Prophet ﷺ, he said that he was leaning on a pillow and the Prophet took it away. So he was leaning on A'ud, which is a stick. So the Prophet took it and then he said, pray on the earth. Okay, now we have to understand this hadith, which is more correctly than the translation that's being said here. Right, the hadith talks about the person who has prayed. If you pray on a pillow, okay, a pillow, it's like praying on a chair, isn't it? If you pray on a pillow, praying on a chair. Are you allowed to pray on a chair? Yes, we said to pray on a chair if there was no way for you to sit down. You can't sit down on the floor. You can't because there's something wrong with your, I don't know, your spine or whatever, you can't. And this is the case where the person cannot make sujood, cannot sit on the floor. So he could pray on the chair. Whether he is able to stand up or not able to stand up is beside the case. Right, so here we find that the Shk.Abu rahimahullah bring this hadith to say to us, are you allowed to pray on, I'm saying to you now, on a little mattress? Are you allowed to pray on a mattress or not? As long as the mattress is steady and it does not wobble, no problem to pray on the mattress. So what is here meant by this pillow? Wallahu a'lam. Is the pillow which is meant by this is that the Prophet of Allah saw this man, he is putting his head on the pillow. So it is like when he prostrates what? On the pillow. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he took it away. So he took a stick to what? Put his head on the stick. So it's to make sujood in it. So the Prophet of Allah, he doesn't want us to make this prostration. So we pray that is on the earth. And if you can't prostrate, then make a gesture. Ruku' and what? Sujood. That's it. So you don't have to go. That is why I just said to you that is, if you remember the chair I showed you, which is a prostration chair, where something is being like a pillow in front, where the person can put his head, or in the plane. When the person prays in the plane, he puts what? The table for the food. He prays on top of it. That is as well the same thing. So he says, make your sujood lower than your ruku'. Wallahu ta'ala. What time is the prayer? 12. We've got time, inshallah. Go ahead.
Prayer on a ship. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam was asked about prayer on the ship, so he said, pray on it standing unless you are afraid of drowning.
Okay, let me just add to this hadith we just said as well. There's a narration that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if the person who is ill cannot make sujood, then he would make a gesture with his head and he should not lift up something to his head. So this is just to back up what I have just said regarding the pillow and regarding what? The wooden stick. So what is what I said to the translation of the leaning here? What does it mean? Because it's not to be sitting on the pillow. Sitting on the pillow is no problem. So if you're praying on the floor, sitting on the pillow, sitting on the carpet, because the carpet could be padded as a pillow, there's no problem. Cushions, no problem. As long as you're what? Steady. It's wobbly, you can't really have steadiness, and you can't. But it's steady, no problem. It's meant here that they pray on the pillow. That what he did, he just put a pillow and prostrate on it. Now we put a stick. No, you can't do that. If you can't, just on the air, like this, or like that. This is ruku', and this is sujood. Depending on how much you could bend your back. But make your sujood, prostration lower than your ruku'. Now prayer in the ship, and this is the last thing we're going to handle. No, either we prepare the ship, or inshallah, after Ramadan. Prepare the ship, leave it after Ramadan. Okay, let me just, no, I haven't finished. What? I haven't finished the question. I want to give the reminder, because we're getting close to that. And people will start coming. Right, so as I said, we're going to always, inshallah, if you can, the reminder, whether it's about the knowledge or about. Today's reminder is about Ramadan, because Ramadan, as I said, is a guest that everybody is looking forward to meet that month. And it's about the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O you who believe, fasting was prescribed upon you to be obligatory, thus just like the way it was made obligatory upon those before you, so that you may attain taqwa. Now, in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to the believers, Ya ayyuhal ladhina aman, O you who believe. And the Salaf, they said, when Allah says, Ya ayyuhal ladhina aman, ar'ihi sam'ak, pay attention. Either it is good that he's enjoying, or evil he's forbidding. O you who believe, this is the sweetest of call. You believe in Allah to be your Lord, and your Prophet to be Muhammad, and your Islam is to be your religion, and Quran is your book. O you who believe. كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم. Fasting was made obligatory upon you, just like it was made obligatory upon the those before you. Now Allah Azza wa Jal, He has the right to say, oh people, fast. That's it. But He did not say that. Because Allah Azza wa Jal, He created us. And He knows from ourselves we hate orders and commands. We don't like it. Somebody command you something that you don't like it. So Allah created us and He knows what are we made of. So we don't like to do this and do that. You like, do this please. Can you do this please? Can you do that please? You like this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's just like in that style. It's like saying, it is a command, but at the same time He's saying, oh you who believe. Oh you who believe. It's just like when you ask somebody who's rich to pay you charity. MashaAllah, you are a person who is generous. Can you pay us charity? He will pay, but if you say, pay charity, he will not. Or you stingy, you never pay, can pay money please. He will never pay. But when you say, oh generous person, mashallah, you beautiful person, he will, yeah, he likes that and he will pay you. So Allah, because He knows from ourselves that we hate orders and commands, He says to us, oh you who believe. And then He says to us that, you know, I did not make fasting obligatory upon you only, even the ones who were before you. So don't you ever think that I am targeting you Muslims. I'm pinpointing upon you. No. Oh, the people before you had a fast. And through the sunnah of the Prophet of Allah, we know that the fast of the ones before us was harder than the fast of ours. The fast of the ones before us, it was at the beginning of Ramadan, when Ramadan was made obligatory. It was the same, but then Allah gave us this concession. Qais ibn Salma, radiallahu anhu, he tells us. So in this, at the beginning it was that when the person, he reaches the sunset, he has to eat at that time. If he happens to be sleeping, then he has to wait until the following day. Then he'll be another 24 hours. So Qais ibn Salma, he was working all day, so tired. Came to his wife, do you have any food? So the sun set now. She says, I'm going to look for the neighbors. She hasn't got any food. She went, she came back, and she found him asleep. She said, what a loser you are. Disgrace to you. You lost it. So she can't wake him up. Even if she wakes him up, that he lost it. He has to be what? Awake. So the following day, he continues now on an empty stomach. Midday, he fainted. He collapsed. And that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. Eat and drink until you distinguish the dawn from the night from the Fajr. That means it doesn't matter if you slept through the time of breaking of the fast. At any time, as long as before Fajr, you could what? You could eat. Alhamdulillah. So Allah is saying to us, I made fasting obligatory upon those before you. So you're not the first people. That's another encouragement to us to fast. Then He says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Number one, very few da'iyah they talk about the end of this verse. Very few. They all, when we talk about the da'iyah, they talk about materialistic breakers and all of those ahkam, but لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Very few. And I'll tell you what, from the very few verses and texts in the Quran or the Sunnah that you find Allah talks about the implementation or the rule of ibadah, and at the same time says why it is being set obligatory upon you. Very few. Do you understand that? So when you talked about the Hajj compulsory, he did not say why it is to be compulsory upon you. But the fasting, he said to لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Very few verses talks like this. Very, very few. The salah, yes, he talked about Allah Azza wa Jal. But in the Hajj, no. So, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. This is the target. Why are we fasting? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So the target is taqwa Allah, to get closer to Allah. The means to it is to abstain from food and drink. But the people that take that abstaining from the food and drink is the target. Do you understand that? This is wrong. This is the means. The way. Why is the end of the road is the taqwa? This is the means. In order for you to have taqwa, I have to abide by what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to me, to abstain from food and drink and sexual intercourse all the way from dawn until sunset. So this is the means. So don't swap the means to the target. The target is the taqwa. So what is the point from you that you have Ramadan and yet you don't get closer to Allah? And there's something wrong. Because it is not a torture, it is not a food abstaining, it is not hunger, it is not that we are after. We are after the taqwa. So if you don't get taqwa through that means, then there is something wrong here. You're not really making Ramadan properly. So taqwa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the target. You understand that now? Is the target. As I said, few people talk about that. Now, when I get the taqwa, I get the success. And the Prophet ﷺ, he says, من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به ليس لله حاجة في أن يدع طعامه وشرابه. This hadith is a great hadith. He who does not abandon falsehood and the implementation of the falsehood, that means slandering, backbiting, lying, falsehood, and all of that, then Allah doesn't need from you to fast. You don't need to fast, because the fast was made for this. Was it made for what? It was made for the taqwa. So if you're not going to abandon that, so this is hadith that goes with the end of that verse. Another hadith, ليس الصيام من الجوع والعطش, and from the shahr. Fasting is not actually abstaining from food and drink and desires. إنما الصيام من اللغو والرفث. Verily, siyam is fasting, is to abstain from all evil acts, whether it comes from the mouth, or from the hands, or comes into the ears, or from the eyes, or from the feet, or between the legs. All of that, the obscenity, you have to stop that even not Ramadan, not in the day of the fasting, and any day. But there is extra in the month of Ramadan. There is extra in the days of Siyam. What is the extra bit? Is that Prophet said, فَإِنْ سَابَكَ أَحَدٌ أَوْ قَاتَلَكَ. This is the extra. That if someone, please switch off that adhan, jazakallah khair. فَإِنْ أَحَدٌ, if someone is to insult you, or someone is to fight you, are we going to listen to the adhan? Ya akhi, Allah yajzik khair. Then switch it off. طيب. Maybe there's a notice, it doesn't matter. So we said that the person that he has to hold himself while he is fasting. He has to say to that person, I am fasting, and that is why I cannot reply on you. He's getting louder or something? Brother, can you just put it in your pocket? It's like a lucky, you can't switch it up. It's even louder than Muadhin here. Inshallah. Help him. Yeah. We told everybody, please, do not make adhan on your phones. Very important, this. Very important. I think we stop, inshallah, make the adhan. So please, brothers, make sure that there is no adhan to be triggered at any time. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. A reminder to the brothers, we were talking about the month of Ramadan, and we had one of the brothers, he had his phone, his mobile on the adhan. I'm not addressing the brother, I'm addressing everybody to make sure that your mobile, inshallah, regarding the adhan, that is something maybe you don't know that it will be triggered while you are in the toilet. So what are you going to do? You're going to have the adhan and dhikr of Allah inside the toilet. I'm pretty sure you're going to say no. So for those who have an application, please make sure that you cannot really trigger the adhan at the time of the adhan. You could trigger, for example, a sound that reminds you this is the adhan, but to trigger the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, because you don't know where you're going to be. So that's a reminder, inshallah, for you and for the brothers who has those things in their mobiles. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. We said Allah Azza wa Jal, the intention behind this implementation of the Siyam is the taqwa of Allah. And to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just merely abstaining from food and drink. It's actually the taqwa. How close you're going to be to Allah Azza wa Jal during this month of Ramadan. And from that also we said that this fasting is a shield for the person. It's a shield in this dunya. And this shield will get you closer. And the means to get to the taqwa, Allah Azza wa Jal is saying to us, abstain from food and drink and desires from dawn until sunset. And you'll get the taqwa. Because you are a person, you're going to be abstaining from the food and the drink. You're going to help yourself to make it difficult to the shaitan to maneuver inside yourself. For verily the shaitan, as the Prophet said, إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَجْرِي مِنْ آدَمَ مَجْرَى الدَّمِ فِي الْعُرُوقِ. The shaitan runs in the son of Adam just like the blood runs in the veins. So if you eat a lot, then you're going to make your heart pumps a lot. And when it pumps a lot, you're going to make your veins wider and the blood will run faster. When the blood runs faster, you're going to make it smoother and easy for the shaitan to maneuver. When the person fasts and abstain from the food and drink, the pump of the heart doesn't have to exert much power in order to bring oxygen and to burn the food. So you'll find the blood runs slower. And when the blood runs slower, it runs through veins which are tighter. And that is why it will be more difficult for the shaitan to maneuver. That is why that sort of fasting would help as well into you to get as well that sort of taqwa of Allah Azza wa Jal. Of course, beside the biggest point, which is that you are following the commands of Allah and following the commands of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This month, the month of Ramadan, is the month of patience. And Allah says in His Quran, إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. Verily the people who are patient, they will be given their reward without any accounting. There's no 10 multiples or 700 multiples, there's something else more than that. And Allah's Messenger had called that this month is the month of patience. So if I'm patient and I hope for the reward from Allah Azza wa Jal, the reward I'm going to gain inshallah is a lot. So let's inshallah shape ourselves for this month and make sure that we don't really spend the month in watching Hollywood films or playing PlayStation or take it as a month of sleeping, but as actually is the month of gaining so many hasanat. People, when they mention the month of Ramadan, all they talk about is going to be the longest Ramadan. That's an implicit statement. You are complaining that the Ramadan is a long day. Can I just ask the brothers who are here, please, can you just come forward? This is the Sunnah and Asr. Don't leave gaps. For those, the customers, they know. The customers, I mean, we'll help them, inshallah. But you're a customer, please get forward. Get closer. You have to know that this is the Sunnah. If you scatter, everybody will leave. Shaitan will break you. So make sure that you are tight. And it's only inshallah in 5 minutes and we'll finish. So, we said that the month of Ramadan is the month of patience. And the person with his patience will get what? Many rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What was the last thing I talked about? What was the last thing before I start? No.
Yes, and Hollywood films.
Yeah, person who's taking the month of as a sleeping. Some people is sleep all the day. They don't wake up until sunset. What is that? And people, they talk about, the last thing I talked about is actually that they all talk about the long days. Long days. And some of the people I asked, I don't know, in this place or I don't know, he said, is it permissible for somebody to go to the other side of the hemisphere? I don't know, is it here? Somewhere else? Yeah, was it here? Was it here? The other side of the hemisphere because he wants to make it what? Shorter hours. Well, I said to the brother, you know, if I want to travel, I will travel the other way around. From the other side of the hemisphere, what is short to this hemisphere where it is long, because I get more hasanat and more ajr. I will not transfer myself to the other side. So that is the case, inshallah. So if it is long, we'll tell the brothers that is Allah had helped you the previous Ramadan and the Ramadan before, and the Ramadan before. It's not going to be different. So the help will be continuous, inshallah. Okay, any questions, please go ahead. Further.
Earlier on,
Right, the hadith says, that this is what we have quoted from the scholars, that this person, Imam al-Qurtubi, he says, that this person, he cannot make the qiyam, then he could make the sitting. If he cannot make the sitting, then he can make the side. If he can't make the side, then he stand on the back. And in the back, he would make what? Nodding with his what? His head, because he can't raise up himself. So he would nod with his head. If he can't do all of that, he says tasbih, subhanallah, subhanallah, because he can't nod. So he's making tasbih, subhanallah bil azim, without nodding.
The intention of salah.
Of course, the intention of salah, because he can't do anything. He can't do anything whatsoever. He's a person just, nah. Fadl.
Explaining the salah in detail. Would it be possible for you to model how we would pray on a chair so the benefit will be young people as well?
I wish that those people who leave, they would stay there. Inshallah, we'll talk about Tarawih when we talk about it. We've got some. Problem is that the ones who are here, they know. The problem is the one who leave. And then they complain, we're being taught. Well, if you sit down here, it's only 5 minutes, sit down. That's a problem. So if I tell you now, these people already, they know. Most of them, they know. The ones who left, the ones who do not know. So I actually was targeting my talk now to the ones who are the flying customers. But it's still flying. I don't know how can we bait them and pull them here, and maybe somebody has to sit on the door there, prevent them to go out, put shutters there. I don't know what to do really. I'm helpless. But Allah says to the Prophet ﷺ, فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرٌ لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُصَيْطِرٍ. If the Prophet of Allah, he cannot control them. لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُصَيْطِرٍ. I'm going to control them. I can't. I'm just going to make da'wah. أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ أَنْ يَكُونُوا جَمِيعًا مُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah says to the Prophet of Allah, are you going to make everybody, whether you like it or not, to be mu'mins? You can't. وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَآمَنَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. If Allah wills, everybody on the earth. وَلَوْ شِئْنَا لَآتَيْنَا كُلَّ نَفْسٍ هُدَى. Allah says if everybody will make it mu'min. But it has to be mu'min, no mu'min, good, no good, and people listen, they will not listen. We always never lose hope. We always ask those people, inshallah, maybe next time we'll make kebab. Let's sit for the kebab. Sit for the kebab. Make kebab, inshallah. Have a kebab and have information. Allah. Right, jazakallah khair. Now, but as I said, the problem is that the people more on the entertainment. So if, for example, I'm a performer, they will be paying money for me to sit down. Not just there, have to pay money. Not for free nothing. This is for free. But no one will they will pay money, and they'll bring the kids and their children and everything to enjoy a seminar made of what? Dancing and chanting. That's what the musta'an. So I ask Allah. So the chair, I'm going to ask for the chair. The chair prayer. Let me just demonstrate for Nasser because he asked me. Let it be the last thing. Give me the chair, please. Or shall I take the chair from here? Give me that chair, please. Yes, that chair will be enough. Okay, this is the chair. No, this is maybe not big enough. We want a big. Give me mine, please. Mine is big. Right, this is the road. Let's say this is where we find so many masajid that got lines, which is not from the sunnah. This masjid is upon the sunnah. They don't have the lines. Jazakumullah khairan. But let's say I'm going to make some people now to stand up to know where's the road. Can I ask for? Okay, now stand up. And just put your feet with the leg here. Yeah, that's it. And I'll stand up, Arif. Right. So these two people now, they represent the road. Now the person who is unable to stand up and unable to prostrate, he is the one, the chair is fit for him completely. He's unable to stand up, he's not able to prostrate, and he is as well finding it difficultly to sit on the floor. So the chair, we say that this is 100% for you. When he sits on the chair, like this, so his buttocks and his shoulder is in parallel to the people. In this case, the chair has no problem for any other people. People find it, alhamdulillah, easy to pray behind him, pray beside him. It doesn't bother anybody because his chair is what? Forward, is not at the back. Now, if this person is capable of making prostration That means automatically he is capable of sitting. He's not allowed to sit on the chair. Why? Because he's going to lose 3 pillars. What are they? First, prostration. Second, prostration. And in between then the jalsa. So he has to sit on the floor the way that is comfortable for him. We start the first one, which is iftira. I want you to be all the time there in the row, because you are the line. So he will be like this. Again, his buttocks will be in parallel to the shoulders. So he will sit the way that you sit iftirash, like this. So this is the way. If he is not, then you go to waruk, second stage. Because this is one of the sittings of the prayer. Now if we can't these two, then there is no other than praying iq'a, like this, which is more difficult. But if he can't now, it is the way that he likes. He could sit cross-legged. He could sit with stretching his feet like that as well, no problem. Now some people find it very odd and very, you could say that unacceptable by the people when they see him praying like this. How many people you have seen him praying like this in the rows? None. None. Now this wasn't the case in my time when I was young. We had no chairs whatsoever. These chairs just came recently. It's a fashion now more than it is a prayer for the person who is really in need of a chair. So how many people we find like, we want people to pray on the floor like this. So if you're not capable of sitting the way that I told you, you can sit the way you like. Now let's go to the chair back again. It's a person now who is not capable of prostrating. And he's capable of sitting on the floor. I'm sorry, leave the chair. He is not capable of prostrating. Okay, so he's got the chair option, but he's capable of sitting down. So we said he sits down the way that he can. Now he can't prostrate, he could do like this. This is his ruku', and this is what? Sujood. This he can't do. Hold this bit. So this is his ruku', and this is his sujood. This sujood is not like that. Now in that case, you don't put a pillar, you don't put a stick like this, you pray on top of it, but actually you pray just like a gesture on the air, ruku', sujood. And you could be vikar, that's because you can't bend your back, ruku', sujood, just a bit, tilting, alhamdulillah. Now this person, he wants to pray on the chair, in this case, as I said, then if he is capable of standing up, and he cannot make sujood, right, he's capable of standing up, and he cannot make sujood. Now if he's going to stand up, he cannot put the chair in the front, because he will be what? Like other people, they do. So many people, they do like this. He has to line up with what? With the people, and the chair is behind. Can I just ask the people to go away? Take the table away, please, from me. Right, well, just go back. Easier. Right, so here, I am sitting now. The problem is now, for the ones who what? The back. They don't like to play behind the chair. I don't blame them. Now, I would say that this person, he should now, if he is capable, that every time he is about to make the sujood, to pull the chair slightly. So, he's in his Fatiha like that. In his ruku' is like this. If he can't bend his back, he could do like this, the ruku'. Doesn't matter. But don't sit down. Make ruku' while standing up. Sami Allahu liman hamida. Now he's going to go to the sujood. He's going to sit down. He's going to sit down. He's going to do like that. No, stay with your foot. So he's going to do like this. Right. So sitting down, the person is behind him now. He will relax because he's got already what? His space. And I am in parallel still between the brothers. I'm in parallel with my buttocks. This is the best. So this is the first sajda. Now I can't make sujood. You remember that? I can't make sujood. I'm not able. So this is the sajda. Sami Allahu Akbar. Second sajda, Allahu Akbar. And then I go for the second rak'ah. For the second rak'ah, I'm going to go again, push the chair slightly to the back and line up my first with the people. So that person is already behind me, is up. He doesn't need the space, basically. That again, ruku', either I could make the ruku' or I could just make a gesture. Now, do you have any question to ask regarding the chair now after all of that? Now,
so make the ruku' and the chair in the back would be in his nose.
Who is making ruku'? This person. Okay, you can make ruku', please. Try to put me your nose, please, on that chair, if you can. You'll be between the chair and that so many miles. No way, it's far away. So anyway, the ruku' is not like, the problem is the sujood extends. The ruku' is not like extends, that's this way. So when you make ruku', you don't take more space. It's only, the problem is when you make what? Sujood, that's the problem. That's when you're going to prostrate underneath the chair. And sometimes he gets up, he's going to hit his head with the chair. Problem.
Ramadan here, Tarawih like this.
Okay. Between what?
Between the rows and the top like this.
Between the?
Rows.
Because of the chairs. You mean between the rows? There's. Hang on. Oh, you mean less gap. It doesn't matter. The ruku' doesn't make a difference, brother Sheikh. The ruku' is not. If I do what I just did, nobody will complain. The ruku' is not the complaint. The complaint when you go to the sujood. That's the complaint. So the ruku' is not an issue. Because I said to you, the chair is really low anyway. Unless you're going to have a what? A couch? I mean, that's something else. That's a chair. Small chair. Okay, there is one which I have seen. Chairs which are stuck to the ground already. And they have their sitting. You have to follow my mouth. You're following the chair. Right? You're still looking at the chair. You're not looking at me. So you have this folded. Okay, when it's folded, he will be. Yeah, give me that chair. Give me that one. That's the one. See, this is a chair which is stuck to the ground. So the person who is, whether he's ill or not ill, he could use that chair. So the one who's ill, hold this please. Not you. So he's going to be ill now. He's going to go sit down. This chair will go like this with it. Right. That's better, isn't it? So it will open. By the way, it will open and the leg will not go to the back. This leg goes to the back. But the other one goes the leg to what? To the front. It doesn't go to the back. So this chair is very good. And I say to the brothers, please don't leave chairs in the rows are open. People sometimes are scared to move them. Then you find that so many people are leaving gaps in the first row because of a chair, believing that there's an uncle to come. If there's an uncle, you go see him and help him. Bring the chair and open it for him. But to put chair just like that, go to the Masjid of Whitechapel, and see what I'm talking about. There are about rows of chairs being lined up. 10 chairs on the side, 10 chairs on that side. And the poor people who are not really able to sit, they will sit far away. They will sit on the chairs because they're allocated for them. And between them and the first rows, a gap, an ocean. So they're not linked even to the people. So those chairs, they cannot be moved. No, we want a chair that is, I want to be in the row. Not a chair to be isolated myself, okay? Then the chairs with the chairs and the people with the people. That's not right. So as I said, let's kill the fashion of the chair. Let's tell the people who are unable to stand up, make dua for them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them health inshallah and cure them bi'idhnillah. But the ones who can sit down, and the ones who cannot prostrate, you cannot use the chair. You're not allowed to use the chair, you could prostrate. But the ones who cannot prostrate, but you could sit, please, let's revive the sunnah. None of you had seen poor people praying in the masajid sitting down. True or not? None of you. But in my time, I have seen all of the people sitting down. I have never seen people on the chairs. Never, ever. Who's the person who's about 50 here? Uncle, in your time, did you see people on chairs at that time? No. As uncle, you see? Is all the people who can't stand up, they would sit down. Isn't it true? But now the chair became a fashion. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give help to our uncle. Jazakumullah khair, subhanakallah bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka.